Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Friends, today we are looking at the economics IGCSE paper 2 and variant 2 also, that is paper 22 0455. This is June 2020, and in the last economics O levels IGCSE video, I have solved the first question of this paper, that was data response. And today I am going to solve question number 2 of the same paper. So uh, what I am trying to do is to whether mathematics or economics or whatever paper I am solving, I am going in a sequence now. So first I am solving the June 2020 June series. Okay, so let's look at the question now. This question data response I solved in my last video. So if you have not seen it up till now, please visit. Here's the question. Section B. You have to answer any 3 questions out of the 4 given questions. So question number 2 is saying that the first part is define external cost. The second part, part B, is explain 2 influences on whether the demand for a product is price elastic or price inelastic. That is for 4 marks. The first part is always define, 2 marks. Second part is always explain, 4 marks. Part C is always analyze, 6 marks. And then part D, the two-sided answer has to be written for discuss, and that's a 8-mark question. Okay. Important thing over here, it is given that each question is introduced by a stimulus material in your answer. You may refer to this material and slash or to other examples that you have studied. So you can give give examples from your local economy, be very specific, and don't hesitate to explain your answers with the help of examples. And if you read, if you watch the news, and if you discuss, uh, being participative in the class also, that will again help you writing down the answers in the paper also. So the first part is define external cost, and a little bit of what they have given in this extract. Stimulus material. The Indian government has declared that the country, now a major car producer, will sell only electric cars by 2030. That is amazing. The government wants to reduce external costs, the cost borne on the third party, some of which are caused by petrol and diesel cars. So the world is now shifting towards more of the solar cars and environment friendly products. Demand for elastic cars is currently relatively low and price elastic. So it means that you can't change the price that much because the demand will be very changing significantly. The government, however, thinks that it will not need to subsidize the production of electric cars to achieve its target. So they are not going to subsidize, means not given and not will be giving incentives to the producers. So the first part, define external cost. In my notes, you can see that for question number 2a, I've written external costs are the costs borne by the third party. Third party means the people who are not the community, which is not involved in the process of production, still they are getting the harmful effects of that production activity, and the external costs basically create problems for the entire society. Another point which you can give in a 2-mark answer, external cost is equals to the social cost minus the private cost. This is your formula for external cost. Basically, we say that social cost is equals to the external cost plus the private cost. And it is good to know that the private cost basically is the cost which is borne by the producer himself or the person, the people involved in the process of production. Okay, now look at question number 2b. Explain 2 influences on whether demand for a product is price elastic or price inelastic. 4 marks. So in the explain question, the keyword explain, you have to write 2 points and explain them properly as well. So coming back to my notes, question number 2b, uh, we decide that whether the product is price elastic or inelastic in nature on the basis of the nature of the commodity. That is, if the product is luxury, then a small change even in the price will change the demand, up to a great deal. And that is the case of luxuries like perfumes, for example. Or a necessity is price inelastic in nature. A great change in the price will hardly change the level of demand. So those products are price inelastic in nature. So the first point was given, luxury or necessity depends on the nature of the product. Secondly, whether the substitutes are available or not. If the substitutes are available, products will be price elastic in nature comparatively. If the substitutes are not available, then of course it will be a problem, and it will be the products will be price inelastic in nature. The community have to afford that at a very high price as well. Another factor, the extra factor I have written over here, income spent on the product. So if there is a question coming on elasticity, and later on stages we'll discuss that point also. Looking at part C, analyze using a demand supply diagram how a subsidy given to the producers could affect the market for electric cars. Subsidy basically is an incentive provided by the government. So looking at the notes, question number 2C, uh, correctly labeled means the x-axis is the quantity of electric cars, y-axis is the price of electric cars. Then the S1 is the original supply curve is shifting to S2, which is the new supply curve. Demand remains the same, only the extension we can see will occur in the demand curve. So over here, if we see, uh, these are the two things which I want to specify over here. This is the equilibrium 1 represented by E1, equilibrium 2 E2. This is your new equilibrium, and the point of intersection between demand and S1 will be P1. The intersection between S2 and demand will be your P2. So relative to P1, this is your Q1, this is your Q2 relative to S2 and the demand. So obviously, uh, explanation always required in this is demand supply diagram, carry marks. So a subsidy is an incentive from the government to the producers in the form of money or in the form of tax cuts, means reduction in tax, that will encourage the producers to produce more. They will increase the level of supply, and when the supplies are increasing, prices will definitely come down for electric cars. So remember that this question was related to electric cars, so you have to mention the term that is specific good electric cars in it. Looking at part D now, discuss whether cars should be produced by the private sector or the public sector. This is for 8 marks. So I'm going to write down, uh, show you the notes which I did for you. So it means that cars should be produced by the private sector. There are 4 points I have written over here, and 4 points against it means that the cars should be provided by the public sector, means the government sector. Prices may be low because of competition. So there is competition in the private sector, and because of that, they are going to reduce their prices so that they can have more market share. High quality products will be produced because they know that if the product is is of poor quality, it will not sell in the market. So the private sector will do no compromise on the high quality, and they are efficient also because of the high competition. Then my favorite point number 3, dynamic efficiency. The use of modern technology is there in the private sector, a very good feature of the free market economy. So the cars will be fuel efficient, and they will be environment friendly as well. Maybe if the producers are considering heavy investment in the research and development, of course they will produce modern technology, cars with full of efficiency. Number fourth is more investment coming in the private sector, as it is assumed that when the economy is more open and free of government intervention, then there will be more investment coming in, and that also produce the private sector can produce better quality cars and cost effective cars for the users. Now look at the other sides. If the monopoly is there, can be there if this is controlled by the private sector. So that is the first point which you have written against it. Public sector or the government may charge less because they are looking for welfare maximization. Number three, the government will consider the external uh, costs. So environment friendly cars can be produced. They will have this. We assume that the government is looking and taking care of the people and the society and the environment as well. Number four is large scale production because the government will always have more resources. So government, if we assume that the government has more resources than anyone else, than the private sector, so they can utilize those larger scale production, economies of scale, and reduce the cost of production. So that's it, my students. We have seen question number 2 of paper 22, June 2020. It was a good question comprising of the initial topics of the economics, IGCSE, and the O levels. Thank you.